Dr. Alina Rodriguez was drinking her third cup of coffee when her entire world turned upside down. It was 2:47 a.m. at the Deep Space Research Center in Chile. She was alone with nothing but the sound of humming computers and the endless static. From outer space, Alina had been working the night shift for 5 years. Most nights were the same, listening to radio waves from distant stars, recording data, and filing reports that barely anyone read. She was used to the loneliness. In fact, she preferred it. No interruptions, no meetings, just her and the mysteries of the universe, but tonight was different. The first thing she noticed was how quiet everything became. The usual background noise from the radio telescopes suddenly stopped. Then, a new signal appeared on her screen, stronger and clearer than anything she had ever seen before. Her hands started shaking as she adjusted the equipment. This wasn't random noise from a dying star or interference from a satellite. The signal had a pattern, a rhythm that reminded her of a heartbeat. Someone, or something, was trying to communicate. Alina quickly ran the signal through her computer programs. The results made her drop her coffee mug, which shattered on the concrete floor. The signal contained mathematical sequences that only an intelligent species could create. But that wasn't the most shocking part. The message was aimed directly at Earth. She spent the next 2 hours decoding the transmission. Her excitement grew with each line of data she processed. This was it, the moment humanity had been waiting for. Proof that we weren't alone in the universe. The decoded message was simple but powerful. It contained coordinates for a meeting, point somewhere beyond Mars. The beings who sent it wanted to meet Earth's representatives. They spoke of peace, knowledge sharing, and friendship between their worlds. Alina felt her heart racing as she read the final part of the message. The aliens had one specific request that made no sense to her. They wanted someone particular to attend the meeting. A soldier named David Chen from the 3rd Space Defense Unit. This confused Alina completely. Why would aliens from another world know the name of a human soldier? She quickly searched the military database and found David's file. According to the records, he had disappeared 3 years ago during a secret mission near Jupiter. His ship had suffered equipment failure. He was declared lost in space. How could beings from another planet know about a missing soldier? Alina's mind raced with possibilities. Maybe David had encountered these aliens before his disappearance. Maybe they had rescued him. Or maybe this was some kind of test to see if humans were ready for contact. She realized she couldn't handle this alone. Alina picked up the red phone on her desk, the one that connected directly to the International Space Defense Command. Finger hesitated over the numbers. Once she made this call, everything would change. Not just for her, but for all of humanity. The phone rang 3 times before someone answered. Alina took a deep breath and spoke the words that would change history. This is Dr. Alina Rodriguez at Deep Space Research Center. I need to speak with your highest-ranking officer immediately. We have received a message from extraterrestrial intelligence. Within minutes, her quiet research station was buzzing with activity. Military vehicles arrived with their lights flashing. Scientists, generals, and government officials rushed through her doors. Everyone wanted to see the message for themselves. Alina found herself at the center of the most important discovery in human history. But as she watched the chaos around her, she couldn't stop thinking about the missing soldier. David Chen was the key to understanding why these aliens had chosen to contact Earth now. The officials questioned Alina for hours. They wanted to know every detail about how she received the message, how she decoded it, and what it might mean. But the question everyone kept asking was the same one that puzzled Alina. Why did the aliens specifically ask for David Chen? General Patterson, the head of space defense, pulled Alina aside.
Doctor,
I need you to understand something, he said quietly. David Chen's mission was classified at the highest level. Very few people knew he was out there. The fact that these aliens know his name suggests they either intercepted our communications or they met him, Alina finished. The general nodded grimly. We've been searching for David for 3 years. Every deep space patrol has been looking for any sign of his ship. We never found even a piece of wreckage. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. What if he's still alive? What if these aliens found him? That's exactly what we're afraid of, the general replied. Or hoping for. We're not sure which yet. As dawn broke over the Chilean mountains, Elena realized that her discovery was just the beginning. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, answers were waiting. And somehow, a missing soldier held the key to humanity's future among the stars. The aliens had been silent for 3 years. Now they were ready to talk. But first, they wanted to see David Chen again. Elena wondered what story the soldier would tell when they found him, and what secrets he might have learned during his time. Among the stars, the universe had just become a much more interesting place. Captain Jake Morrison was having the worst day of his mining career when he spotted something that would change everything. His crew was working near Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, looking for rare metals in the asteroid field.
That was?
To be a routine operation, but their equipment kept breaking down. Another busted drill bit, Jake muttered, watching his profits disappear with each failed piece of machinery. His mining ship Iron Hawk was old and constantly needed repairs. He was starting to think this whole operation was a mistake. That's when his radar operator, Tom Bradley, called out from the control room. "Captain, I'm picking up something weird on the scanner. There's an object floating about 2 miles from our position." Jake rubbed his tired eyes. "Probably just space junk. Mark it on the map so we don't hit it." "Sir, this doesn't look like junk. It's giving off a signal." Now Jake was interested. In 30 years of deep space mining, he had learned that anything giving off a signal was either valuable or dangerous. Sometimes both. The crew suited up and took a small shuttle to investigate. What they found floating in the darkness made Jake's heart skip a beat. It was a military escape pod, the kind used by space defense soldiers during emergencies. The pod was intact, but clearly damaged from some kind of accident. "Look at this," Tom said, pointing to the side of the pod. "There's a name painted here. David Chen, 3rd Space Defense Unit." Jake knew that name. Every deep space worker had heard the stories about the soldier who disappeared 3 years ago during a classified mission. The military had offered a huge reward for any information about his whereabouts. "Tom, start the rescue procedure. We're taking this pod back to the station immediately." The journey back to the orbital medical station took 6 hours. Jake spent the entire time wondering if David Chen was still alive inside the pod. The life support systems were still running, which was a good sign. But 3 years in space could do terrible things to a human body. At the medical station, Dr. Lisa Park and her team carefully opened the pod. Inside, they found David Chen in perfect condition, sleeping in a cryogenic chamber that shouldn't have been able to keep someone alive for 3 years. The technology was far more advanced than anything humans had developed. "This is impossible," Dr. Park whispered as she examined the readings. "His vital signs are perfect. It's like he just went to sleep yesterday. The revival process took 4 hours." Jake watched from the observation room as David slowly opened his eyes. The soldier looked confused, like someone waking up from a very long dream. "Where am I?" David asked, his voice hoarse from years of silence. Dr. Park leaned over him. "You're safe now. You're at the Europa medical station."
Ow!
"Do you remember what happened to you?" David tried to sit up, but his muscles were weak. From the long sleep, memories came flooding back in pieces. He remembered his mission, a routine patrol near Jupiter. He remembered his ship's engine failing and the emergency systems going crazy. Then everything became fuzzy. "There was an accident," David said slowly. "My ship was dying. The life support was failing. I thought I was going to die out there." "What happened next?" Dr. Park asked gently. David closed his eyes, trying to remember. "Someone found me, but it wasn't human. They had a ship unlike anything I'd ever seen. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time." The medical team exchanged worried glances. Space isolation could cause hallucinations, but David seemed completely rational. "Tell me about these beings," Dr. Park encouraged. "They saved my life," David continued. "I was barely conscious, but I remember being taken aboard their ship. Everything there seemed to glow with its own light. The technology was incredible. Healing machines that could repair human tissue, computers that responded to thoughts." David's voice grew stronger as more memories returned. Their leader was different from the others, taller, more graceful. She had these eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. She spoke to me, but not with words. It was like she could communicate. Directly with my mind? She, Dr. Park asked, is definitely female. She felt like royalty, someone with great power and responsibility. She took personal care of me while their medical team worked to save my life. For weeks, maybe months, she visited me every day. Jake leaned forward in his chair. This was getting more interesting by the minute. Why did they help you? Dr. Park asked. David was quiet for a long moment. I think she felt sorry for me. Here I was, this lost human floating in space, millions of miles from home. She said her people had rules about not interfering with other species, but she couldn't just let me die. What happened when you recovered? That's the hardest part to remember, David admitted. She knew she had to send me back to my own people, but she was taking a huge risk by helping me. Her own species might punish her for breaking their laws. David's eyes filled with tears as the memories became clearer. The last thing I remember is her placing me in this advanced cryogenic pod. She programmed it to keep me alive until human rescuers could find me. She promised that someday, when the time was right, our peoples would meet officially. Dr. Park and Jake looked at each other in amazement. If David's story was true, then humans had already made contact with an alien species. And somewhere in space, there was an alien leader who had risked everything to save one human life. Do you think you'll ever see her again? Dr. Park asked. David smiled for the first time since waking up. I have a feeling I will. She's not the type to make promises she can't keep. Unknown to David, at that very moment, Earth was receiving a message from deep space. A message specifically requested his presence at a diplomatic meeting. The alien queen who had saved his life was finally ready to reveal herself to humanity. David Chen stood in front of the mirror in his quarters aboard the diplomatic ship Horizon, adjusting his dress uniform for the 10th time. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. In 2 hours, he would come face to face with the being who had saved his life 3 years ago. Dr. Elena Rodriguez knocked on his door. David, are you ready? We're approaching the meeting coordinates. David took a deep breath. As ready as anyone can be for something like this, I guess. Elena had become a close friend during their journey to the asteroid belt. She understood better than anyone how nervous David felt about this reunion. Remember, she specifically asked for you. That means something important. The diplomatic ship Horizon was humanity's most advanced vessel, but David knew it would look like a toy compared to the alien technology he remembered as they approached the meeting point between Mars and Jupiter. Everyone on board held their breath. Captain Rodriguez announced over the intercom, "All hands, prepare for first contact. The alien vessel is now visible on our screens." To the observation deck with Elena and the rest of the diplomatic team, what they saw through the reinforced windows left them speechless. The alien ship didn't look like any human design. It seemed to be made of living crystal that shifted and changed colors as they watched. The vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of their own ship. Light danced across its surface in patterns that reminded David of aurora displays. On Earth, it was both beautiful and impossible, defying everything humans thought they knew about spacecraft design. "How does something like that even fly?" whispered Ambassador Chen, the lead diplomat. "I don't think it flies the way our ships do," David replied, remembering fragments of his time aboard a similar vessel. "Their technology works with energy, in ways we don't understand yet." The communication system crackled to life. Lena quickly activated her translation equipment as a melodic voice filled the bridge. Even through the electronic translation, the voice carried authority and grace. "Greetings, representatives of Earth. We are honored by your presence. Permission to board your vessel." Ambassador Chen stepped forward. "Permission granted. We welcome you in peace." David felt his heart pounding as he made his way to the docking bay. The entire diplomatic team was there, but he felt completely alone. What do you say to someone who saved your life when you thought you were going to die in the cold emptiness of space? The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss. Now David's breath caught in his throat as the alien delegation entered their ship. There were 5 beings total, all tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to glow with its own inner light. But David only had eyes for their leader. She was exactly as he remembered, yet somehow even more magnificent. Her presence filled the room without her saying a word. She moved with the confidence of someone who had ruled worlds, but her eyes held kindness that David remembered from his darkest moments. The formal introductions began. Elena's translation device worked perfectly as the alien leader spoke. I am Queen Lyrile of the Asterian Collective. We come seeking friendship and understanding between our peoples. Ambassador Chen responded with a prepared diplomatic greeting, welcoming the Asterians to formal relations with humanity. Everything was going according to protocol until David stepped forward. Your Majesty, David said, his voice barely above a whisper. The Queen's translation device suddenly went silent. Her large, luminous eyes widened as she looked directly at David. For several long moments, she stood completely still as if seeing a ghost. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Elena checked her translation equipment, wondering if something had malfunctioned. Ambassador Chen looked confused by the sudden halt in proceedings, but David understood. He took a small step closer and spoke again, louder this time. Queen Lyrile, I'm David Chen. You saved my life. The Queen's composure, which had been perfect throughout the formal introductions, suddenly cracked. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached up to touch a pendant around her neck. When she finally spoke, her voice came through the translator thick with emotion. David Chen of the 3rd Space Defense Unit. Ship designation SC-247. Mission date April 15, 2022. She recited the details of his mission as if she had memorized them. You were dying when we found you. It's life support at 12%. Hull breach in sections 4 and 7. David felt tears forming in his eyes. You remember everything. I remember a brave human who never gave up hope, even when facing certain death in the void of space. I remember someone who showed me that courage exists in even the smallest acts of survival. The formal diplomatic atmosphere had completely evaporated. Elena found herself translating not just words, but emotions that seemed to bridge the gap. Between two completely different species? Why did you help me? David asked the question that had haunted him for 3 years. Queen Lyrile was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. My people have laws about interfering with developing civilizations. For thousands of years we have observed, but never intervened. But when I saw you there, alone, and fighting for every breath, I could not follow that law. She paused, looking around at the human delegation. You showed me something I had never seen before, the strength to keep hoping when hope seemed impossible. In that moment, I knew that humans were different from other species we had encountered. David wiped away a tear. You saved more than just my life. You gave me hope that kindness exists everywhere in the universe. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, realizing that this personal connection was more valuable than any formal treaty. Your Majesty, it seems our species have more in common than we realized. Queen Lyrile smiled, the first time any human had seen an Asterian display such an emotion. Indeed, Ambassador. Perhaps this is where true friendship between our worlds begins. Elena continued translating as the conversation shifted from formal diplomacy to something much more meaningful. The meeting that was supposed to establish trade agreements and territorial boundaries had become something far more important. Proof that compassion could exist between any two beings, no matter how different they might be. David looked at the Queen who had risked everything to save a stranger and realized that this moment would change not just his life, but the future of both their civilizations. The diplomatic conference room had never felt so quiet. Ambassador Chen, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, and the entire human delegation watched as David and Queen Lyrile faced each other across the polished table. The formal meetings had been put on hold, because everyone realized that the real story was happening right here. Between these two beings, David cleared his throat, his voice shaking slightly. Your Majesty, for 3 years I've wondered if what happened was real or just a dream. When I was floating in that broken ship, dying slowly, I thought I was hallucinating when I saw your vessel. Queen Lyrile leaned forward, her luminous eyes focused entirely on David. Through Elena's translation device, her voice carried both sadness and warmth. What you experienced was very real, David Chen. Finding you changed everything for me. Elena adjusted her equipment, making sure every word was captured perfectly. This wasn't just a personal conversation anymore. It was history being made.
Oh.
Me what you remember, the Queen said gently. David closed his eyes for a moment, bringing back those terrifying and wonderful memories. My ship's reactor was failing. I had maybe an hour of life support left. I was preparing to record my final message to Earth when suddenly my sensors detected something approaching. He opened his eyes and looked directly at Queen Lorelei. Your ship appeared like magic. One moment there was nothing but empty space. The next moment there was this incredible vessel that seemed to be made of living light. The Queen nodded. We have technology that allows us to travel unseen when necessary. My scout ship was on a routine patrol when we detected your distress signal. You could have just observed and moved on, David said. That would have been the safe thing to do. Yes, the Queen admitted quietly. That is exactly what Asterian law required me to do. For thousands of years, my people have followed the principle of non-interference with developing species. We watch, we learn, but we never reveal ourselves. Ambassador Chen couldn't help but interrupt. What made this situation different? Queen Lorelei was silent for a long moment, choosing her words carefully. When I saw David through our sensors, I saw something that challenged everything I thought I knew about humans. Here was a being who was facing certain death, alone in the vast emptiness of space, and he was not giving up. David remembered those final moments in his dying ship. I was scared, but I kept trying to fix the life support systems even though I knew it was hopeless. That is precisely what moved me, the Queen continued. In Asterian culture, we believe that how a being faces death reveals their true character. Most species we have observed either panic or simply accept their fate. But you, David, you kept fighting with a dignity that impressed me deeply. Lena found herself wiping away tears as she translated. The emotion in both their voices was impossible to ignore. So I made a decision that put my crown, my people's trust, and our entire first contact protocols at risk, Queen Lorelei said. I ordered my ship to rescue you. David leaned forward. I remember being brought aboard your vessel. Everything seemed to glow with its own light. The technology was beyond anything I could understand. We're barely alive when we brought you into our medical bay, the Queen explained. Our doctor said you had less than 10 minutes before complete system failure. We had to work quickly to stabilize your human physiology. How long was I with your people? David asked. Nearly 4 months of your Earth time, the Queen replied. Your injuries were severe, and human biology was new to our medical team. I had to learn as we went. Ambassador Chen shook his head in amazement. For months, we had no idea. The search teams found no trace of your ship. Queen Lorelei looked slightly embarrassed. We removed all evidence of the accident. It was necessary to protect both our species until the time was right for official contact. David smiled, remembering something. You visited me every day while I was recovering. Even though you had an entire star system to rule, you took time to check on one lost human. Those visits became the most important part of my day, the Queen admitted. Through our conversations, I learned that humans possess something very rare in the galaxy, the ability to find hope in hopeless situations. You taught me that strength isn't about power or technology. True strength is about never giving up on what matters. Alina realized she was witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't just a diplomatic meeting. It was the foundation of trust between two civilizations. But the hardest part, Queen Lorelei continued, was deciding what to do when you recovered. I knew I had to return you to your people, but I also knew that our encounter could never be revealed. Not until both our species were ready. David's voice grew quiet. I remember the day you told me I had to go back. You seemed so sad. I was heartbroken, the Queen confessed. In those 4 months, you had become like family to me. You were the first human I had ever truly known. And I realized that if all humans possessed your courage and kindness, then our species could be great friends. You gave me that advanced cryogenic pod, David remembered. You said it would keep me safe until my own people found me. I programmed it with the best technology our civilization possessed. I could not bear the thought of you dying after we had worked so hard to save you. Lena looked around the room and saw that everyone was completely absorbed in this incredible story. Even the hardened military officers had tears in their eyes. For 3 years, I carried the memory of our time together, Queen Lorelei said. I wondered if you had survived, if you remembered our conversations, if you ever thought about the bond we had formed. David reached across the table, and after a moment's hesitation, the Queen placed her hand in his. Despite the differences in their species, the gesture of friendship was universal. I never forgot, David said simply. You saved more than my life. You showed me that even in the darkest places, kindness can shine like a star. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the weight of what they had heard. A queen had risked everything to save one lost soul, and in doing so, had laid the groundwork for friendship between the stars. 6 months after that historic meeting in space, David Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly built Earth-Asterian Friendship Station. Through the massive windows, he could see both human and Asterian ships working together, building something that had never existed before, a bridge between two worlds. Dr. Alina Rodriguez joined him at the window, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Hard to believe how much has changed, isn't it? David accepted the coffee gratefully. Sometimes I still think I'm dreaming. A year ago, I was just another soldier on patrol. Now, I'm humanity's first ambassador to an alien civilization. Friendship Station orbited peacefully between Earth and Mars, a symbol of cooperation that amazed everyone who saw it. Human engineers worked alongside Asterian builders, combining technologies that neither species could have developed alone. The station's design was beautiful, part human practicality, part Asterian elegance. Any word from Queen Lirale today? Alina asked. David smiled. She's arriving this afternoon for the weekly planning meeting. We're discussing the new medical research program. The partnership between humans and Asterians had grown beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The Asterians shared their advanced healing technology, while humans contributed their determination and creative problem-solving skills. Together, they were making discoveries that benefited both civilizations. David's personal relationship with Queen Lirale had become the foundation for everything else. Their weekly meetings were part business, part friendship, and completely essential to making the partnership work. When problems arose between the two species, and they did arise, David and the Queen could usually find solutions because they trusted each other completely. The medical program is incredible, Alina said, watching Asterian and human doctors working together in the station's research labs. They've already found cures for 3 diseases that we couldn't treat before, and our engineers helped them solve that power distribution problem they'd been working on for decades, David added. It turns out that human stubbornness is actually useful when you're trying to fix impossible problems. Lena laughed. Who would have thought that our biggest weakness would become our biggest strength? A soft chime echoed through the station, announcing an incoming ship. David felt his heart lift as he recognized the crystalline vessel approaching the docking bay. Queen Lirale had arrived. David made his way to the docking bay, where a small crowd had gathered. Even after months of regular visits, the Asterian Queen's arrival still drew attention. She had become something of a celebrity among the human crew, known for her kindness and her genuine interest in human culture. The airlock opened, and Queen Lirale stepped onto the station. She had adapted to human customs over the months, learning to shake hands and even attempting to drink coffee, though she admitted it tasted terrible to Asterian senses. "David," she said warmly, "I hope you've been well." "Very well, Your Majesty, though I keep telling you to call me just David, and I keep reminding you that old habits are hard to break." She replied with what David had learned was the Asterian equivalent of a smile. They walked together toward the conference room, passing through sections of the station where humans and Asterians worked side by side. David never got tired of seeing the cooperation between their species. "The Council has approved the new exploration program," Queen Lirale announced as they reached the conference room. 3 joint missions. To survey systems beyond our current territory. David felt excitement building. That's wonderful news. "Our pilots have been training with your navigation technology for months. Yes. And your pilots have taught our people some very interesting flying techniques. Who knew that humans could be so creative with spacecraft maneuvers?" They spent the next 2 hours reviewing plans for expanding their partnership. New research projects, cultural exchange programs, and joint space missions. Each month brought new possibilities that neither species had imagined before. But the most important moment came at the end of their meeting, when Queen Lirelei pulled out a small device that David had never seen before. "I have something for you," she said, her voice taking on a formal tone. "This is a communication device that will allow you to contact me directly, no matter where either of us might be in the galaxy." David accepted the device, which was beautiful in its simplicity, a small crystal that pulsed with gentle light. "Your Majesty, this is incredible. But why?" "Because 3 years ago, when I made the decision to save your life, I changed the course of history for both our peoples. That decision led to everything we have built together. I want to make sure we never lose contact again." David felt tears forming in his eyes. "You know, before I met you, I thought the universe was a cold, empty place. You showed me that it's actually full of friends we just haven't met yet." Queen Lirelei nodded thoughtfully. "And you showed me that sometimes the most important laws are the ones written in the heart, not in official documents." As the months turned into years, the friendship between humans and Asterians continued to grow. The station became a hub of activity, with scientists, artists, engineers, and explorers from both species working together on projects that benefited everyone. David often thought about that night when Dr. Elena Rodriguez first detected the alien signal. None of them could have imagined that a simple act of rescue would lead to such amazing friendship between the stars. Children on both Earth and the Asterian homeworld learned about the human soldier and the alien queen, who proved that kindness could cross any distance. Their story became a symbol of hope, proof that different peoples could not only coexist, but could help each other reach for greatness. The universe was a big place, full of mysteries and wonders. But now humans knew they weren't alone in exploring it. Somewhere among the stars, friends were waiting. No. And sometimes the best friendships began with one person reaching out to help another. Even when it meant taking a risk, David Chen had gone from being a lost soldier to being a bridge between worlds. Queen Lirelei had gone from being a ruler bound by ancient laws to being a leader who chose compassion over tradition. Together, they had shown both their peoples that the greatest adventures in life happened when you were brave enough to help someone in need. The silence that had once filled the space between their worlds had been replaced by the sound of friendship, cooperation, and hope for the future. And in the end, that made all the difference.